Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and with FPL due to launch in just a couple of weeks, I thought let's have a little think to try and decide what kind of players we might be interested. So today I have built a mock draft team for game week 1. Very early, I know, but I'm getting excited for FPL, so I couldn't really resist it. If you guys are excited about FPL launching too, please do drop a like and do subscribe if you want more FPL content in your faces. Let's have a look at this team, but first a quick word from our sponsor today. If you're looking for the best pick in web safety and anonymity this summer, then how about our mates over at Surfshark, a VPN service that keeps your identity safe online. It's basically like installing David Raya to your PC or mobile phone. But not only this, Surfshark allows you to browse the internet as if you were in a different country. If you don't have access to certain football channels and networks in your country, no problem, set your location to somewhere else using Surfshark and you can now access it. Maybe you want to watch Match of the Day or Sky Go from on vacation and it's not working, or you're getting that annoying "this content is unavailable in your country" message. Just because you're playing away doesn't mean your internet needs to be. But here's my favourite feature. If you've watched all of the best series on Netflix and want to unlock all the content on USA Netflix, for example, you can easily do so. You can switch countries faster than you can switch your captain's armband to Erling Haaland. Protect your identity, be safe online, and access web content from around the world wherever you are. And you can now get 3 months extra for free. Just use promo code FPLMate, all one word, to get this offer. Or you can simply click on the link in my description. It really helps support the channel and you get a great service for a heavily discounted price. And if you somehow don't like it, there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So unlike in FPL, everyone wins. Okay, so obviously the prices haven't been revealed yet, so I am making some price predictions in today's video, which is kind of interesting, I guess. But I predict this team comes out around 98.5 million. Maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less, and we can adapt that when we do get the official game launch. But let's go through it with the predicted prices, and we'll speak a little bit about why I like these players. So first of all, I'm going to go for Ederson in goal, and I know that's a bit of a controversial one, but really what I'm looking for is a nailed-on Man City defender, and Ederson is essentially that. You know, he's not a defender, but he's going to be nailed on playing in goal. He's going to be a little bit expensive at 5.5 million, but what I do think is with these fixtures, what we have in the Man City defence is just something that's quite safe early on in the season, and whilst we're kind of trying to identify which kind of teams are going to be keeping clean sheets, which ones aren't, maybe just go for a really safe option, the best defence in the league, and just go with it with these really nice fixtures. I mean, looking through these, Burnley, Sheffield United and Fulham, those 3 games in particular, you're really expecting clean sheets from Manchester City, so we're expecting a few points at least. I know it's not going to be in mega hauls, we're not going to get loads of save points or anything like that, but it should be enough to tide us by until we can kind of get a better idea using our first wild card in game week, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, something like that, and we can then kind of pick our long-term goalkeeper after that. But having said that, if there is a really nice 4.5 million goalkeeper this year, I would be very tempted to go for them. But right now, looking for the safe option, I guess, a 5.5 Ederson is not the worst shout in the world. So I'm going to stick with that one for now. Of course, so much can change over the next few weeks, can't it? Into defense, we got Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he had a really nice end to the season when he changed positions into midfield. He looked like a player reborn, and he looks so good. Really creative, obviously on those set pieces as well. And Liverpool actually looking like they're going to be keeping some clean sheets as well. So although for a lot of last season we didn't see too many clean sheets from Liverpool in general, I think that's going to change for the new season. I think we are certainly going to get 1 or 2 clean sheets over this run. Chelsea is always a game where you can potentially keep a clean sheet. They don't score too many goals. That Bournemouth game looks like good for clean sheets as well. And Newcastle and Aston Villa, a little bit difficult, but hopefully with the attacking returns that Trent's going to have, as long as he does come in at that 7.5 million value, I think it's going to be well worth the money at that kind of price. Next up, I've gone for Pervis Estupiñán. I think it's going to be 5 million, but he could potentially be a 5.5 million, but I'm predicting him to be 5. If he's a little bit more, I think I still would go for him, to be honest, because these opening run of fixtures for Brighton are really good. We've got Luton, Wolves and West Ham. Those 3 fixtures, we are looking likely to get clean sheets. And those of you guys who were playing FPL a lot at the end of last season will remember Pervis Estupiñán was just the absolute GOAT. He was like the new kind of top fullback to get in your team, a player who looks like they're going to get attacking returns constantly, creating, taking shots, making, darting runs into the box, going to the byline, doing everything that you want from an attacking fullback. And for a Brighton team that ended the season really well, the second half of the season, the whole season really, they were a really good underdog story. And I think with the run that they have at the beginning of this season, the underdog story is going to continue, and they're going to start to kind of establish themselves as a really top English team. Really looking forward forward to seeing what they can produce. And Pervis Estupiñán is a player who is definitely one to keep an eye on. And we're going to round off the defense with Ben White, who I think is, again, another player who could potentially go up to 5.5 million. What I would be doing if Ben White is 5.5 million, I would potentially looking at some of the other Arsenal defenders, see if we can find a 5 million defender. So like if Gabriel or Saliba or Zinchenko, if any of those guys are 5 million, I'll probably go for them instead of Ben White if he was 5.5. I don't really have a strong preference of what kind of Arsenal defender I'm going to go for. They are kind of all similar as long as they're fit and available. They're all kind of putting up similar numbers. There's no massive attacking threat there. There's a little bit though. And when you kind of look at some of these Arsenal fixtures, Forest, Crystal Palace, Fulham, these games are definitely opportunities for clean sheets for the Arsenal guys, and I feel like Arsenal are going to have a really strong start to this season, especially if they make the right signings in those key areas and they have, you know, all of their players back. We saw a lot of Arsenal at the second half of last season struggling for clean sheets at times, and that's because William Saliba was out. There were some other players that were out of the team at various points in time because of injuries, and if they're all going to be back for the start of the new season, I think clean sheets are going to be back on the card. So Ben White or whatever Arsenal defender I can afford at 5 million is definitely someone I want to be going for. Over 5 million, I'm not really too keen on it. I don't want to spend too much money on defense this season because I kind of found that last season we saw a lot of goals, and that seems to be a bit of a trend here, but we are seeing a lot more goals in the Premier League at the moment. So maybe clean sheets are going to be something that we don't see as often, and going for those attacking fullbacks, kind of those kind of attacking players and players with good fixtures is probably the right way to go without spending too much money on them. But of course, Trent kind of buckles that trend because he has that attacking option. But look, this is the defense I like the look of right now. That could potentially change a little bit, but I kind of like this. And Ben White, by the way, I know he has a couple of tough fixtures after like game week 3, like, you know, Manchester United in game week 4, for example. But I have actually got a defender on the bench that rotates really, really nicely with Ben White, who we'll speak about when we get to the time to talk about the bench. Moving into midfield, guys, we have got Saka first of all. So Saka, I think he's going to come in at around 9 million. And like I say, I do like these Arsenal fixtures. I think Arsenal are a team that I have a decent amount of confidence in. Maybe overconfidence, as maybe because I am an Arsenal fan, maybe there is a little bit of overconfidence there potentially. But Saka, I think he's going to be really a key player for Arsenal once again in the new coming season. He's going to be on penalties as well, which is really, really good to see. Nottingham Forest are a team that actually concede quite a lot of penalties, so that is always something that you need to kind of consider when picking your penalty takers. I do enjoy a penalty taker in FPL. They always get you those nice cheeky points. We do enjoy that a lot. So yeah, Saka, great player. I think he's going to have a really good season. I think, with Jesus back, being creative, maybe really good for Saka as well in that kind of forward front three line. And yeah, I think it could be another good season for Arsenal and a strong start to the season with these fixtures for Arsenal. So much so that I am going to be doubling up with Martinelli. So the guy who looks a bit like me, according to some of you guys. Yeah, Martinelli would probably actually be my first choice of all Arsenal players to come in. I know people are going to have different opinions of which Arsenal player is the right pick to go for, but Martinelli, I think he's going to come in slightly cheaper than Saka at 8.5. I think he's going to be well worth the value at that. I think he is really possibly Arsenal's primary goal scoring threat. Maybe we've forgotten about that a little bit because of his injury at the end of last season, but before that we saw he was scoring for fun. He was scoring so many goals. He was so crucial to everything that Arsenal were doing in attack, on the counter attack, with a little bit of trickery here and there. Looks really, really good, and I think it's going to be a big season for him. And the great thing about some of these Arsenal players is that they're going to be getting better and better because they're so young. So the likes of Saka, the likes of Martinelli, these are players that are going to elevate themselves with each season. So whatever price you're paying at the beginning of the season, you just know they're going to be worth more by the end of the season. And that's kind of what we've seen from last season. These guys were a little bit cheaper last season. They're going to be more expensive this year, but hopefully they are going to be well worth their money. Remember, these Arsenal midfielders, Saka, Martinelli, Ødegaard, they were all among the top scoring midfielders in FPL last season. So although you don't necessarily know which of the Arsenal midfielder is going to be the one scoring the points, they are definitely players I'm looking out for. So yeah, do prefer the Arsenal midfielders as well to a Gabriel Jesus. I know some people may be looking at a Gabriel Jesus depending on his price. I think Jesus could come in at a similar price to Saka, maybe a 9 million. And in that case, I feel like I prefer the midfielders. Seem to have just as much attacking threat, but get those extra points for the clean sheets. 1 extra point for a goal. I like it in general. So next up, we're going to move the conversation conversation away from Arsenal, because we've had 3 Arsenal players in a row now. We're going to go for Phil Foden, who I think is going to come in around 7.5 to 8.5 million. I put down 8 million here, but Foden always starts the season really well. He kind of, he's in Pep's plans really, really well at the beginning of the season, and then he kind of starts to maybe drift off. But what we have seen at Manchester City kind of over the last couple of weeks is that it does seem like a couple of the players are going to be kind of moving on. We could see Gundogan leave, Mahrez could potentially leave as well. So it's going to leave a nice gap for Foden to come in and be one of the main starting kind of wingers. He's definitely ready for the step up to be playing like week in, week out. And we've seen it in spells in FPL when Foden is playing regularly, he is getting all of the FPL points. And he's a really nice, often a differential that not too many people are willing to take a risk on. I like to take 1 or 2 risks in my FPL team because that's really what takes the difference between, a good rank and a great rank. It also can go very wrong, but, it goes both ways. And I think that's the exciting part of FPL. So a player like Phil Foden is definitely an exciting player to own in FPL. And looking at these fixtures that Manchester City have, I mean, come on guys, 2 newly promoted teams in the first 3 game weeks, followed by a Fulham team that were putting up some pretty poor numbers in the second half of last season. This is really a situation where this Man City team that is so full of confidence, flying so high, and need to start the season really, really well. Something they found out last season is that they can't afford to be pushed too much. Arsenal are kind of there or thereabouts. Liverpool will be looking to bounce back. Manchester United are looking good as well. So there are teams that can challenge a Manchester City. So they'll be looking to get a strong start to the season. Phil Foden usually plays a lot at the beginning of the season as well, and usually does very well whenever he does play. For minutes, Foden, whenever he's on the pitch, he's just pretty much a must-have player. So, yeah, he is a player I want. He's a risky one. He's an interesting one. He is a fun one. Let's finish off the midfield with Solly March. Now, it wouldn't be an FPL Mate team if there wasn't a Solly March involved. He is a personal favourite of mine, a player I really, really enjoy watching. I think he's fantastic. I do believe that he is Brighton's best player, and I know he had that injury at the end of last season, and a few people forgot about him, but even when he wasn't really scoring or assisting, he always looked like the most dangerous player on the pitch, in my opinion. I've been following Brighton really closely last season. They've been kind of a team that I've really, really enjoyed. Like, I'm almost a second team for me in many ways, because they're just a team I like watching their games. And Solly March always is the player to really stand out for me. I think he's going to come in fairly cheap at 6.5 million as well. So if we're looking for those bargain players, because we can't just pick expensive players in the whole team. I know you guys have probably noticed that there's no kind of premium midfielder in here. We will speak about that in a few minutes, but if we're looking for those cheaper players, Solly March, if he comes in around 6.5 million, maybe even 6 million, you never know. That could be some real value for money there. So, yeah, really, really like this one. We're going to go up front with Erling Haaland, first of all. No surprise here. Don't need to talk about this one too much. I predicted him at 13.5 currently. I think that's kind of the maximum he'll be. Can't really see him go to 14 million. I guess it could happen technically, but if I'm totally honest with you guys, I buy Erling Haaland at pretty much any price. If he's 15 million, I still buy him. I still have him, and I perma-captain him throughout this run of fixtures. Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Fulham, and the fixtures are pretty good after that as well for the first several game weeks. So Erling Haaland is probably going to be the only player you need in terms of captaincy. You don't need another captain option in your team. You'll be even looking to captain Haaland against Newcastle. Remember, Newcastle were struggling for clean sheets a little bit at the end of last season as well. So overall, Erling Haaland must have at pretty much any price. I would be interested to know, guys, what is the maximum you would pay for Erling Haaland? If Erling Haaland comes in at 20 million, are you still picking him up? I have to say, I would still consider it. I would still be strongly thinking about it and just go cheap elsewhere, because you've got that captaincy option, which is so useful. Next up, I've got Brian Mbeumo. I think he's going to come in at around 6.5 million. And with no Tony in the team, he did really well at the end of the last season. So he was the central man, the main goal-scoring threat. He's really improved his finishing, and he's on penalties as well. So I've got another penalty taker in the squad. The opening game against Spurs doesn't look great on paper, but actually, the new Spurs team under the new manager, it looks like this Spurs team is going to be much more attacking than we've seen before. Much more attacking, and that may leave kind of gaps in behind to exploit for a kind of a player like Brian Mbeumo on the counter-attack, who may be able to finish some of his chances. We don't know who's going to be in goal for Spurs next season as well, so that could be an interesting one. I think Spurs, certainly at the start of the season, are going to concede goals. I think they're going to struggle a little bit, and I think this is going to be a really nice opportunity to go for a Brentford attack attacker in your lineup. After that, we've got the likes of Fulham, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, pretty decent fixtures there as well. And I do like the idea of Mbeumo, when his fixtures do kind of go downhill from around game week 5, at that exact moment, we have Mitrovic for Fulham. Fulham's fixtures actually go really well from there on. I think they play Luton in game week 5. So an Mbeumo switch to Mitrovic in game week 5 could actually be a really, really interesting one to go for. I know it's thinking a little bit ahead here, but hey, I like to have these options, you know. Next up, we're going to finish off the starting 11 with Evan Ferguson. And I have to admit to you guys, this is the one position I am not really too confident in. A lot of the players I've been speaking about so far are players that I'm really interested in. Like, they're players who are genuinely really high possibility of being in my game week 1 team. A lot of them will be in my game week 1 team. Ferguson is the one I'm not too sure about, and he's kind of that final player. It's my kind of I guess my 7th attacker, whether that's an additional midfielder and play a 5 in midfield, or, you know, play 3 up front. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but Evan Ferguson for now, I kind of like the fixtures, as I've kind of mentioned already. Ferguson, whenever he plays, he's been fantastic. I mean, his goals and assists per minute played are just elite. If he's going to come in and start being that main guy for Brighton, and I think he is ready for that step up, then he's going to be an absolutely huge player at a really, really cheap price as well. So I think this could be a real bargain differential kind of player to go for, but maybe a little bit too risky for game week 1. Right now, though, I'm looking through some of the other forwards, and I'm just not really convinced by anyone else. Until we know the prices and who is going to be coming in at that, you know, 6 to 7 million price range, it's difficult to say who is going to be the best value for money. Right now, I've gone for Mbeumo. We have to cut some corners somewhere. We've got some very expensive players. We're expecting a lot of players to increase in price from last season, so we're going to have to go cheap somewhere, and why not your 7th attacker be that cheaper guy? Onto the bench, guys. I've gone for Kelleher at the moment. I know he plays for Liverpool right now, but he has been kind of touted for a move. And if he comes in at 4 million and he gets a Premier League move and becomes a starting goalkeeper at another Premier League club and comes in at 4 million, I think that is going to be the new Ward, I guess, of this season. The new 4 million goalkeeper who's actually going to get game time. Right now, I think it could be Kelleher. Of course, if Kelleher stays at Liverpool, there is no way that he is in my team. I don't want to use up a Liverpool slot on a goalkeeper on my bench, to be honest, but I'm just making a very early shout, and it is a very early shout, that maybe Kelleher could be the 4 million goalkeeper to go for. Let's see how that one plays out, but very flexible here. We will probably change that one. Pinnock, good fixtures, very, very good fixtures. And yeah, like I say, he rotates very nicely with Ben White. You guys should check out the rotation between these two defenders. Whenever Ben White has a difficult fixture, Pinnock has a good fixture, so that you can rotate them very well, particularly in game week 5, 6, 7, 8, well, even game week 4 as well, when obviously we have Manchester United for Arsenal. So yeah, nice little rotation there. Pinnock can come in and deputise as long as he's a 4.5 million defender. Wouldn't be looking to spend too much more than 4.5 million on a bench defender, I guess. We got the silver here as well, just I guess just as a kind of a placeholder in many ways. 4.5 million midfielder. If he's 4.5 million, then he's probably the kind of player I'd go for. Equally, that could be a 4.5 million forward. If I change formations, I would just go for whoever I think has got the best chance of minutes. De Silva is possibly going to be that guy. I guess we'll see. I'm not committed to this one. And again, similar with Patterson. If Patterson comes in at 4 million, straight in the team. Very easy 4 million defender as far as I'm concerned, but new little cheeky differentials and cheap bargain players will emerge once the game comes out, once the transfers start flowing in the Premier League as well. We see some transfers from team to team and abroad as well. We may see some players emerge as really nice bargain options. So very much making early shouts on these bargain players. These are things that can very much change. And now, as far as captaincy is concerned, it's very obvious that I'm going to be captaining Erling Haaland every single game week. In terms of vice captain, I guess we could go for like a Saka or a Martinelli or a Foden. I'd probably maybe actually go for Saka, because he's kind of going to be nailed on penalties. And that's nice. That's a safe backup option to have at Arsenal, as long as everyone in this team is fit and available come game week 1. This is kind of what I'm looking at, though. As you guys can probably tell, there is no Mo Salah in this team, which is definitely an interesting one. He's probably the one major player that is missing. Of course, Liverpool don't have great fixtures. Opening game against Chelsea, and then the Bournemouth game is pretty nice. We did see an improvement from Bournemouth second half of last season, though. And after that, Newcastle away, Aston Villa, tough team as well. I don't know if there's going to be too many goals available for Liverpool at the start of the season. And if there is it going to be Salah scoring them anyway? We saw at the end of last season, aside from the penalties, which Salah was obviously really effective on, particularly when Salah was not able to counter-attack, he was sharing the goals with a lot of his teammates, really. So I don't know if Salah comes in at a 12.5, 13 million, if he is worth going for, when you can instead use the money and split it between players like Saka, like Martinelli, like Foden, and bring in all of these players, or just have one Salah and, you know, some cheaper guys. I guess when we find out who the cheaper guys are, things can very quickly change on this, but I just think that I kind of like the idea of going for some of these players like Saka, Martinelli, Foden. If you have all of these players, they are easily going to cover Salah's points, I believe, in these opening fixtures. And I do think it is important to have that option to go for Salah at some point. So, for example, when Liverpool's fixtures start to get a little bit better after game week 4, we could maybe think of some kind of double transfer, removing, you know, Saka and Foden and bring in Salah and a cheaper midfielder. Maybe a new cheap midfielder has emerged by that point, who we didn't really see come in, like a player coming out of nowhere and doing really, really well. That kind of thing. It happens every year. There's just a random 5.5 million midfielder who's just like crazy, crazy good. So that's the kind of player we can maybe do a double transfer to get Salah in. So definitely there's still options to get him in, but we'll start the season with spreading the funds a little bit more, going for some different kind of players, particularly as we will not be looking to captain Salah at all in these opening fixtures. I mean, maybe you could, you know, if you had Haaland and Salah, you would maybe captain Salah in game week 2 when he plays Bournemouth and Haaland plays against Newcastle. But at the same time, I just have so much faith in Erling Haaland at the moment that I'd be looking to captain him every single week, really. Even against Newcastle, I still probably would prefer to go for Erling Haaland. But I guess there is a little bit of debate to be had there. But is it worth, making sacrifices in your midfield? I don't know. Maybe not. But there we go. We'll see what the player prices are. We'll see what budget allows. If we can get Salah in, fantastic. If we can't, I'm okay with spreading the funds a little bit in order to get the right players who I think can score points in these opening runs. And there we have it, guys. That is my pre-launch draft for game week 1. We're so early on this one, but a little bit of fun for you guys over the summer. A little bit fun for me to make this team as well. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed having a little look at the kind of team that I could think about making. Yeah, let me know what you think about some of these prices that I've kind of predicted for some of these players. Let me know if you think I'll be able to afford this team, or let me know if you think I might actually be able to make some upgrades and maybe actually squeeze in Salah to this team somewhere. If there's some, if I've gone too expensive on some of these players, you never know. We could be able to get Salah in as well. But let me know what you think about that one. Is Salah essential? Are you happy with just Erling Haaland? What kind of price would you like to see him at? What kind of prices do you think some of these main players are going to be for game week 1 in the new season? Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you do check out Surfshark. And for those of you guys who are wondering what we're going to see in terms of launch, well, right now, I don't know. But I am going to predict that in the first week of July, we are going to see the new FPL game launch. And when that happens, we will be there for it. We'll be covering everything. We'll be doing streams. We'll be covering everything to do with the launch over here on Twitter, on Instagram. So just stay tuned for that one. I will keep you updated as much as I can with all of the news and rumors about when FPL is going to be launching for the new season. But right now, I'm predicting first week of July. That looks like the most likely outcome here. But aside from that, guys, thank you for joining me for another off-season video. Couple more off-season videos on the channel if you are really missing FPL and you just want more FPL content in the off-season. Fair enough. If you are, super nerdy like myself, then I get it. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.